Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss what superheroes need great video games. I'm sure I've done a video very similar to this, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and honestly, I was watching a buttload of videos about Young Justice, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be just thinking about superhero stuff. And of course, with it being DC, I was very close to thinking, man, that effing Wonder Woman game would have been amazing, I bet. And so I was like, you know what? I just want to talk about superheroes and characters that I wish would just have, really great games. We have our great Batman games. We have our great Spider-Man games. Heck, not even just the most recent ones. I mean, we had, the old school PS1 game. I like the first one, the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game. I never got to play Inter Electro, but that very first one, I thought it was super cool. The whole, it's got everything I love. It's got Venom. It's got Carnage in it even. The little weird pink symbiotes. That's like the only time I think I've ever seen a symbiote be pink, when they just had the nondescript symbiotes and they were just pink blobs. But I love that game. That was a classic. That's a PS1 classic back in the day. But we've had Spider-Man, we've had Batman. Superman doesn't have a good one, that's for sure, but he got some games out there. You know what? Here's one that I bet a lot of people don't actually even know about, and it never gets brought up because probably just the character in general. But we always talk about Superman 64, and we never talk about that GameCube Aquaman game, because that game is absolute garbage. Never played it myself. It's the same situation. I've seen it enough, but I will never forget the old school X-Play review, and Adam Sessler hated that game. But check it out. Aquaman on GameCube. We never talk about it. We always go like, oh man, Superman 64. That Aquaman game is trash too. Aquaman game. But we're talking about, just the more hopeful side of things. Characters that deserve really good games that may or may not happen in the future. On the DC side of things, they probably won't ever happen. I mean, who the F knows? I don't understand why we don't have another Superman game at all. Like, if we're just thinking about it. I don't know why Superman games are just like, a movie came out, let's make a Superman game now. That's it? Superman Returns was the last time you guys thought, anybody thought, Superman? That's insane. That doesn't even make sense to me. Like, I'm not like the biggest fan of Superman or anything, but it's like, it's Superman. You can do like a million things. He's got like all the powers and stuff like that. Like, how does that not compute to someone making a video game? He does fight people all the time that are super strong. You can just make super strong characters that he can fight. You can just do magic. It's actually really easy. Like, it's one of the weirdest things about Superman, where people are like, he's so powerful, it doesn't make sense that, like, he's never weak or anything, which is almost an ironic thing. That was like the eternal complaint of Superman. And then as soon as this last Superman movie came out, it was like, oh, he got beat up. It was like, what are you, what? The whole time, the entire world was like, Superman's too strong, he's boring. The instant he loses to somebody, granted, it's a bunch of dumb internet people, but they're like, oh, he lost. I'm like, I won't spoil it, but I'm like, everyone complaining is an effing moron. It's literally the two things that should happen that don't involve magic. So anyway, Superman, of course, is one of those characters. He should have a really good game. It would be easier. It's a lot easier than you might think. He can lose to a bunch of people. Heck, just steal the storyline from any effing comic book. And I know that seems to be hard these days, but you can just steal a line from a comic book. You can just do Superman Shazam versus Black Adam. I know the hierarchy and power, all that garbage, but that old animated movie was amazing. Superman and Shazam team up to fight Black Adam. It's a great movie. It's awesome. Just do that. You want to do a Superman thing? Do Superman Shazam. Do it like that. There you go. That would be awesome. I know it's not just Superman by himself. I like Shazam more anyway. That's a personal thing. Like, that's just me personally. And if it wasn't for that lawsuit, we wouldn't, none of this would even be a whole thing anyway, because a bunch of weird legal stuff outside of the Superman legal stuff. There was also the Captain Marvel legal stuff, which is why he's now Shazam and not Captain Marvel. So if it wasn't for the weird issues on his side, Superman wouldn't even be like the #1 superhero, because Shazam was like blowing him out the water. If you didn't know that, Shazam was selling like gangbusters. Superman wasn't doing garbage compared to him, but that's a story for another time. But Superman should get his own game. Of course, I think Shazam would be an even cooler game. I like Shazam more, so I think that would be awesome. So I'd love to see that happen, especially if they went with, the Shazam family. I think you could do kind of like how the Spider-Man game did it, where it's like, hey, you kick off with just Spidey, and then you do the Miles Morales, and then Spidey 2 is both the guys. So that would be cool. And then you have like Shazam, and then you can do the Shazam family. Actually, you do it exactly like the movies, where it's like, hey, here you go. Boom, you got Shazam, and then the second movie is the Shazam family. So you could do it like that. I think that would be really cool too. But Superman and Shazam, obviously, they'd be seen as very similar, especially for people that don't really know the characters that well. Even, the movies weren't exactly the most popular for Shazam. But even with Superman, I feel like as much as people know Superman, I'm curious how many powers they really know that he has. And, let's face it, if you're going comic style, it's ridiculous. But both those characters, I think, could have games of their own that would be really fun to play. I do wish we got that Wonder Woman game. I say that, I don't know if I've said it a lot, but I'm sure I've mentioned it somewhere in this series. Wonder Woman is actually my favorite. When it comes to like the big three, I actually like Wonder Woman the most. I can guarantee I know the least about Wonder Woman, but just as a character, I like her the most. She's not as strong as Superman, but she's insanely powerful. She can fight, so she can actually fight Superman. Like, if she's just using her skills, she could probably beat him from time to time. It just depends on, what level he's at. So she's got the fighting skill of Superman. She'll beat the F out of you like Batman, but also she'll take it that extra step further. Batman won't kill. Superman kills as a last minute thing, or like as a last defense. And Wonder Woman is just like, there is no defense. You're a warrior. I hope you can take this hit. So you either getting punched, stabbed, or hit with the shield. She could choke you out with the lasso. Like, there were so many things I was looking forward to action-wise, where I was like, this game is going to be so good. And then it just gets canceled, and that effing blows. Because Wonder Woman, I think, more than most characters, as much as Superman should get a thing, he's at least got, all the effing cartoons. He's got all the effing movies. People know who Superman is. People know who Batman is. Wonder Woman is the other person in that trinity. She's a part of the big three. And it's like, man, people don't know Wonder Woman. And that really effing blows. So we need more Wonder Woman stuff in general, if I'm being totally honest. And it's very unfortunate that last movie sucked the way that it did, because the first movie was pretty good. I thought the actual Snyder cut of Justice League, she killed those guys in that bank, and I was like, this is what I wanted to see. Like, Wonder Woman just kind of, like, she just kills people. Like she will. Like, she, like the warrior thing of the Amazons, they'll just kill you. That's what warriors do. She doesn't do like you get kind of punched and stuff. She'll just straight up murder you, and then it's done. It's like, all right, problem solved. She can choose not to kill you, but it's not that big of a deal for her. Like, she has no qualms about that. She's like, I don't care. Plus, she doesn't really like men, so it's like super easy for her to just kill a bunch of dudes. Like, it's kind of simple in that case. But Wonder Woman 100% needs like an amazing game, because she just has like nothing. She gets like Justice League. She got one really good movie. She's got some animated stuff that's of course pretty great, and then that's it. And like, people just like, Wonder Woman is so cool. She needs her own thing, 100%. The Flash, it's obviously sticking with the DC side of things. I like the Flash a lot. He was always my favorite when I was younger. He had my favorite superpower, which was super speed, and he was funny. So I was like, always liked him. But whether it's Barry or Wally, the Flashes have enough. Although, if they did a multiplayer, once again, this is one of those tricky things with speedsters and the infinite abilities of like, well, how are they just not solving every single problem? Classic situation. Just pick one of their strongest people, make a game. There you go. Make it Reverse Flash. There you go. Problem solved. Oh no, a bunch of people got the Speed Force. How did this happen? I don't know. But there you go. It's comic books. Just make something up. He's not as fast as he normally is. There you go. Problem solved. That's how you do everything. Oh man, something happened. You aren't as strong as you usually are. And that's just how you do it. You build up your powers. You get kind of back to max power by the end of the game. And there you go. So they can make up whatever, because it's comic books. Just, once again, still a line from a comic book. Seems simple. It's been written for decades. You just pluck an effing story out. Oh man, he struggled for a couple issues with that. Crazy how that can't translate to a video game. I know you have to add more, like just the regular goons and stuff, but once again, something happened, slightly less powerful, you do it. That's how you can do literally every single game, including like the Superman stuff. Throw magic in, boom, he's not as powerful. Throw in kryptonite, that's a different element to it. Make up a new kryptonite. There's actually a buttload of kryptonite out there. It's an alternate universe. You can do what you want. Just saying, there are ideas. There are chances. There's possibilities to make these games. But wouldn't mind seeing the Flash thing. We could probably use a different Green Lantern game. But I'm gonna hop over to the Marvel side of things. Actually, before we do that, we need another Spawn game. There was one on PS2. I used to have it. RIP to my PS2 games. Every day, the last like week or so, I've just been remembering randomly like every new game that I've had on PS2 where I'm just like, oh, I forgot I owned that game. There's a Spawn game that was on PlayStation 2, and it was pretty sweet. He did not have the cape because it was the PlayStation 2 technology, and that's just funny to think about. When now you can go back to like Mortal Kombat 11 and stuff, but it's funny to think of that where it's like it was a whole Spawn game, and he could not have the cape because the technology was like too insane. So good game back in the day. I remember that being pretty fun. So we need another Spawn game. He's a hero. He counts as a superhero. I would love to see that. I would love to see another Spawn game. I would love to see another Blade game. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that in Blade movie if they ever pull that one off. But I had the Blade 2 video game, once again on PS2, RIP. But that was pretty fun. You know, obviously that was based off of the actual movie, but like most movie tie-ins, it was like, yeah, it's based on the movie, but you also do like 10% of what's actually done in the movie, and the other 90% is stuff they just make up. And it was fun. You just run around and beat a bunch of, almost said zombies, but you beat up a bunch of vampires, you get a bunch of the weapons, and of course you had that cool boomerang blade thing, like you could throw it around. Like, it was a fun time. So we could use another Blade game. We're getting one. Oh my God, I forgot about that. We're getting one from Arcane. Literally, completely forgot about that game. So never mind. We'll see how that goes. I hope that comes out really well. I like Arcane. I like Dishonored and stuff. I still have to play through Deathloop. But I genuinely forgot. It's been like forever since they've talked about that. Maybe we'll see something about that soon. Today, for anyone, you know, whenever I post this, who knows when. But today is Gamescom. I didn't end up watching any of it while I was at work, so I'm gonna watch it when I get home. So maybe. I kind of doubt it because they tend not to do like crazy announcements at Gamescom. But that would be nice to see more about Blade. And of course, Wolverine, like, good Lord, where's that game been? But hopefully we get some information on the Blade game, which I literally forgot about until it popped into my head. So there's something, you know, that's nice. That's nice. We're gonna have a Blade game coming out. That's really cool. That's really cool. But still, tons of other characters that deserve some video games. Obviously, we got Wolverine getting yet another game. He's had, let's see, he had the X2 thing, which was supposed, you know, they just called it X2, but that literally had nothing to do with the movie. It was a movie tie-in game that was in no way, shape, or form a movie tie-in game. But he already got a bunch of games. He got X2, he got Origins Wolverine, which is like the best movie tie-in game that there is. Maybe Spider-Man 2 is better, but that one's absolutely amazing. And I hope that whatever they do, whatever Insomniac ends up doing with their Wolverine game, if it's the Origins Wolverine game but better, I'm happy, because I still love that game. It's one of those games where, you know, it definitely gets repetitive after a while, but man, is it fun. And the first time you experience that, where it's like, holy crap, he's like chopping people up and he can get shot up and you can see like down to his skeleton and then he just heals, amazing. Like, that game is super fun and insanely ridiculous and over the top, and like 8 billion% better than the movie that it is based on, which is very sad, but a fantastic game. Love that game. But he's already got his stuff, and there's a buttload of other, you know, obviously Marvel in general, but even if you go X-Men alone, you flick an effing coin, you got like some amazing character. There should be a Magneto game, 100%. I don't know how you do that with just Magneto. That's kind of one of the benefits of like Wolverine and characters like him. Like, you could be like, oh, a Gambit game where he was out doing something by himself is like, yeah, I could see a story where Gambit's just alone the whole time. And technically everybody, you know, everybody in comics at some point has had some solo thing where it's like, it's mostly just them. But man, Magneto having his own game would be pretty awesome. I would love to see that because Magneto's absolutely amazing. There's a Gambit game actually would be pretty sick, especially with the variety of abilities you could have, because you'd have both hand-to-hand combat as well as projectiles. Well, I guess it wouldn't be hand-to-hand, but you know, him using like his bow staff and stuff. So you'd have that plus projectiles, plus the fact that his power is to supercharge anything. It would be really interesting to see that utilized, whereas like he's the main focus of the entire game. There's so many things you can do, and plus, for anyone that doesn't know, he's insanely powerful. There's like a specific storyline, you know, once again, multiverse and all that, but there's a universe where he was basically like a god, where his powers were pretty much untapped and he was beyond Omega level, and you could do some stuff with that. I mean, he can, if you saw X-Men 97, you saw it, but he can do some stuff. He can do some wild stuff. So I'd love to see a Gambit game. You know, of course, the classic thing to say would be Gambit and Rogue, and just put them in there in the game together where it's the two of them, make both characters playable, very different play styles, team up stuff, you know, like it would just be awesome. And of course, if you have one, everyone's going to be like, well, if you got Gambit, we want Rogue. And if you got Rogue, we want Gambit. So that's an easy way to do that. And of course, if it's Rogue, I'm going full, like X-Men 97. I'm going comic book style where she was like flying and everything. I want it to be like she took Miss Marvel's powers and then, that's why she can fly and all that stuff. Which is why she has those powers for anyone that doesn't know that, because they don't really touch on that anymore. But that's why Rogue in like the old X-Men cartoon and back in the day, because I have no idea what her effing powers are right now. I'll be completely honest. I think they're, quote unquote back to basics if you want to do that, because I know there was the Terrigen Mist moment and she was actually an Inhuman. So all this stuff, I understand. I don't know where her powers are technically at right now. But back in the day when she was just flying and doing her, her classic thing, it was because she took Miss Marvel's powers, and they had a whole situation going on there. Great storyline in the old animated series as well. They did some crazy stuff with that, which was pretty cool. But Gambit and Rogue, awesome video game. Other Marvel characters that would be amazing, I would love, and this, I don't think this will ever happen, because if they ever do a Spider-based game, it will be Spider-Man. It'll either be Peter Parker or it'll be Miles Morales. There's a slight possibility maybe that they could do a game where it's Spider-Gwen, because of how popular she got. But I would love to see an Agent Venom video game, and that would be amazing if truly done right, because that would be like, oh man, it's interesting. I'm trying to think of how to explain it, because in my head I'm thinking Splinter Cell mixed with like, I guess a little bit of Call of Duty, but not that. Well, I guess it would be over the top. I mean, you got the symbiote, you go over the top with it. But it would be like a shooter with also hand-to-hand combat. You guys ever played The Darkness? that's a perfect representation of like the gunplay, because just like The Darkness, Agent Venom uses his tendrils and stuff to shoot the weapons that he has. So it would be a lot like that, although I don't know if we'll go back to the days of using like all 4 triggers to shoot both handguns as well as like the tendril guns. I don't think we'll go back to that, but you can make them a little automated or something to that effect. But Agent Venom, I'm like a sucker for that costume. That is like, of course it's a symbiote based costume, so it's the only one to rival the symbiote costume, which is my favorite in all of comics. So Agent Venom is the only costume to come along and be like, you know what? This might beat out the classic symbiote costume. I don't know. I still go back and forth on it. Like the sleek design of classic symbiote versus, Agent Venom. It's a crazy good look. So I don't know. But an Agent Venom video game would be phenomenal. And I think that's a character that's extremely underrated. I mean, if we're being totally honest, most people don't even know who Agent Venom is, as far as like, regular public. But that was one of my favorite moments in Spider-Man 2. They made like a pretty clear reference to it for anyone that played that game. There's a certain moment where somebody shows up and it's like, oh, this is a very clear reference to Agent Venom. They don't say that, but that's exactly what that was. So if you didn't know that, now you know. But that's what that was, and I always wished that was going to be a costume. I was so upset when I beat that game, and I was like, oh, they didn't make it a costume. Well, you kind of teased me with that one, and you didn't even put your own version in there, so that hurt my feelings. But Agent Venom would be absolutely amazing. It would just be a spider character that goes on like crazy stealth Black Ops missions. That's in my head, if we're doing it gameplay wise. That's how you do it, and you can do like cool mission-based stuff. That would be sick. And of course, if you want to throw in, other Marvel characters, that would be amazing. Maybe they can have some cameos and stuff. Kind of do like the old Punisher game back in the day, where it was like he was just doing his thing, and you just run into random Marvel characters. It was like, oh, there's Iron Man. Oh, Black Widow's in a random mission. Like, that would be pretty cool. And you could just do that where it's like, hey, maybe this random mission, they got the rights to just be like, hey, you want to team up with the Winter Soldier? Obviously, this would be after he's all freed and everything. And it's like, hey, what if we did like a joint ops mission and we sent out the Winter Soldier with Agent Venom? Just for like a random mission. It's like, surprise, here's the Winter Soldier. That'd be sick. That'd be an amazing action game. And I don't think that'll ever happen unless something goes on, in the MCU that suddenly makes people realize, first off, Agent Venom is a character, and secondly, Agent Venom is an awesome character. That might not end up happening. Who knows? Maybe they go through the whole process and then end up doing Agent Anti-Venom. Who knows? Excuse me. But I'm a huge fan of Agent Venom, and I think of that. I've thought of that a couple of times. I'm like, man, that would be such a cool action game where you could do all the elements of like just a classic shooter, because he's a military character. There's a whole story if you don't know Agent Venom. Agent Venom, Flash Thompson, went to Iraq, lost his legs, ended up being brought into the program. And then it was like, all right, well, we got the symbiote. Check this out. Here you go. You want to do this mission? It basically, the symbiote replaces his leg so he can walk around when he's in the full costume. And I think they have like a time limit or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a minute, but like there's a whole thing with that. And now he's Agent Anti-Venom. Like, once again, storylines. It's like the character's years old. The character's over like a decade old at this point, and he's just like, It's kind of like with Miles. Like, Miles just became popular in more recent years because of, you know, the Spider-Verse movies, but Miles is also like a decade, you know, over a decade old character at this point. So it's just one of those things. Like, characters take a long time before, you know, some random thing happens movie-wise or maybe TV show-wise, and it's like, oh, more people get to see this character and know who they are. So, you know, Agent Venom is one of those characters for me where I'm like, super underrated. People still don't know. He's out there. Agent Venom. We get like a really good game, and that would be amazing. I think that would work. But once again, that's one of those situations where it would just have to be very random fortune. It would have to be someone like me with the ability to just go in and pitch a game for that to ever happen and be like, oh, Agent Venom. Because I don't think Insomniac is worried about that right now. They're still worried about Spider-Man 3, maybe the actual Venom game, and maybe, you know, there's, you know, hope beyond hope, or cope if you want. Maybe it'll be in there. You know, they're continuing their universe with Wolverine. You know, there were all the leaks and stuff, so maybe they are actually going to end up doing that actual X-Men game. Maybe they come back to the Venom thing, and maybe, poof, somebody becomes Agent Venom. Don't know, but I would love to see it. And of course, like I said, there's a buttload of other characters that deserve to have some amazing games. Invincible actually is getting a game fairly soon. It's actually a fighting game. So for anyone that didn't know that, there you go. Once again, I'm probably going to post this so late, you've definitely heard of that already. Especially if you're watching this, you probably already knew that anyway. But it's a 3v3 tag fighting game. Just in case you didn't know that, it's called Invincible Versus. I think it comes out later this year. So look into that if you like Invincible. They have a very bloody fighting game coming out, so that should be cool. But another hero that I think, I don't know if underrated, well, I mean, if we're being completely honest, most comic characters are underrated. I mean, if we're going just off of the normal consensus of, hey, who is this random character? Most people don't know who anybody is anyway. It's like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and that's about it. And then, you know, you got some of the other MCU characters and other live action characters. So people are a bit more familiar these days. So saying underrated, I think, is, I guess, common for comic book characters as a whole. But there's definitely a couple out there. But one that I think would be really good, and this is, of course, isn't going to be any surprise to anybody, but Static Shock. I just want to see him come back. I just want Static to come back because I like Static. His name's Static, by the way. For anyone that doesn't know this, his name is not Static Shock. His name is just Static. Static Shock is the show, but he's just Static. He's always ever only been Static. He is not Static Shock. His name is just Static. I just want to throw that out there because that's a random fun fact about the character that shouldn't be a fun fact, but it is because we just always went with like, okay, well, it's Static Shock. That's the name of the show. That's the name of the character, but it's not. His name is just Static. That's just what they call the show because it kind of fits. I mean, it's a static shock. Like, that's literally why they called it that, and it's genius. So just wanted to throw that out there randomly. But Virgil Hawkins, that man needs a video game. I would love to see it happen. Of course, we all want him to come back in general. There was recently the Static Batman Beyond comic crossover thing that they're going to be doing. That's exciting. We'll see how that turns out. I'm very curious. You know, you put those characters together. Of course, there is, in my brain, one version of those characters, and it's naturally from the animated, you know, DCAU series or franchise from back in the day. And obviously Static is going to be a bit older and he's going to have a different costume. Terry looks the same as far as his costume, but we definitely need a Static game. We need a Batman Beyond game. I mean, heck, we need some. Both those characters have been treated so poorly, it's ridiculous. I know that Terry's been in the comics a lot. Like, he's gotten a lot to do, you know, more recently, I'd say, as far as, you know, Batman Beyond comic book stuff. Static, I feel, has just been like completely absent. But both those characters were like insanely shafted in terms of people love these characters and they just did nothing with them. They like just killed off the show. I think Static got, well, like 4 seasons, and then Batman Beyond got 2 or maybe 3. and one of the greatest Batman movies ever, because Return of the Joker is God tier. I don't care what anybody says, that is one of the best movies out there. Everybody talks about Mask of the Phantasm. I'm telling you, Return of the Joker is amazing. And so is Batman vs. Dracula. The Batman 2003, 2002, 2003, ridiculous. That's once again, one of the best movies, Batman vs. Dracula, I'm telling you. Also underrated. Maybe that'll be a different topic. Underrated Batman animated movies, because everybody loves to talk about Christopher Nolan. And then when you go animated, everybody's like, yeah, Mask of the Phantasm is just amazing. It's like, Batman vs. Dracula is a lot better. Personal opinion, obviously, but Batman vs. Dracula is better. And so is Return of the Joker. Just saying. But anyway, Static needs a game. Batman Beyond, I should just say Terry, because he's just Batman. Once again, he's not Batman Beyond. That's what we call him. It's a lot like Spider-Gwen. That is not her name. Her name is Ghost Spider, but, we call her Spider-Gwen. She can't call herself that because it's like, oh, so your name's Gwen, and then, she'll be murdered in her sleep. That's how that goes. But she's actually Ghost Spider, and so that's a funny thing as well. But those are a lot of different characters. There's, of course, tons and tons more superhero characters that need games. Like I mentioned, slight reference to Green Lanterns. I would love to see a great Green Lantern game. That's another one of those interesting things where it's like you almost have to put like 100 different powers in there. I guess it actually depends on which Green Lantern you use. Because if you're doing like, if you do like Guy Gardner, you'd have like a specific set. Like I expect him to use, kind of like, if you saw the James Gunn movie, maybe he'd do a hand with the middle finger or like a big baseball bat, like more simplistic things, but he's still a good, he's still a good Green Lantern, but it's Guy Gardner, let's be honest. You do Hal Jordan, and it's like, okay, he's probably gonna use his jets. He's a pilot, he'll have like more flying-based things, and that's how you do it. You do Jon Stewart, he'll have the more military stuff. So it depends on the characters, and of course you do like Kyle Rayner, he'd probably be the one to have like what I would imagine, where it's like he's busting out, the Evangelion and stuff like that. So it depends on which lantern you use. So you wouldn't have to have like a million things. You just kind of keep it in line with what they always use in the comics, but you'd still have to have like a buttload of unlockables to be like, hey, here's this construct, here's that construct, here's, here's a car, here's a plane, here's a boxing glove, here's a bat. Like you'd have to have so many in there. It would still require a lot of work, but that would totally be worth it. And then you let people like customize it, or I don't know, you'd have to let them have so many opportunities at once that, I don't know, maybe you use like a weapon wheel, or honestly Spider-Man 2 does give you like 8 different abilities at one time, so there's ways to set it up, even though I hate the fact that it's on the screen like 100% of the time. I hate that in that game. That's just a clutter thing visually. But I would love a good Green Lantern game, and like I said, there's tons of other characters, even other spider-based characters that I'd like to see get their own games. Mostly just Agent Venom, if I'm being totally honest. I'm fine without Spider-Gwen. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And also this whole Silk thing. We'll see what that how that ends up playing out in Spider-Man 3 as well. But like I said, buttload of other characters worth talking about, superheroes. I mean, heck, there's villains that could probably use their own game. Maybe I would make that its own video. Like there are definitely some villains. You couldn't make the Carnage game I'd want to make. But there's some villains out there that deserve their own games as well. That would be really fun to play. But I would love to know your thoughts. What superheroes are out there where you're like, they need their own game. They need a really good video game, much like Spider-Man has had, Batman has had, Superman's had some chances, but he still doesn't have one yet. His best Superman game is probably like, I don't know, Multiverses. That's really sad, but that's probably like the best Superman game that's out there is Multiverses. But he needs a good game. I'm super pissed about that Wonder Woman game. I'm so upset about that because I was like, she's finally gonna get like that thing. I think that game really would have helped. Once again, I think, she's so underrated as a part of like the big three. She's excessively underrated as like a character. And just the fact that she automatically starts off with like 4 different fighting styles. It's like, she's like born and bred for an action game. It's so unfortunate, but maybe sometime in the future, we'll see what happens. We got the whole, the new DCU films. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all that. But like I said, I want to know what superheroes you guys believe need to have like just amazing games because they don't have them. Or, maybe they don't have any games. Maybe like Superman, they just have absolute garbage games. They have some games that are good that, they're in. He's got Injustice 1 and 2 and Multiverses. I'm sure some of the like kiddie DC games are fun. Lego DC, people love that. Superman's in it, so that counts. Good for him. But in all seriousness, I would love to know what superheroes you guys wish had like some really great games, which ones deserve it, whether it's just because you like the character, maybe the character's just that cool and they need that recognition and it's like, hey, this character should totally have it, or they would just work, even if it's a character you don't really like that much, but you're like, man, if it was the right game, that character would be like absolutely amazing, under the right circumstances. So I would love to know what heroes are on your mind, so please put them down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.